Hello everyone, my name is Dave and welcome to my channel. In this video, this is the last video in the series where I talk about the correction of major arcana tarot card placement in respect to astrology. So just to recap, I started off in this series talking about the Empress card, or talking about Taurus, the sign of Taurus. So Taurus, I will say in modern times, I won't even talk about traditionally, but in modern times, Taurus was represented by the Hierophant card. And so I'm using the Rider-Waite Hierophant card, and it's representative of most of the Hierophant cards out there, where it uses a symbol that looks a lot like the Pope, the Catholic Pope, right? And so the reason why this was put in the first feminine sign on the astrological wheel and the first earth sign on the astrological wheel, which, remember, astrology predates Christianity by a long, long time, right? So this association came way later, and this represents the Pope's dominion over all things earthly, which is what the Roman Catholic Church stood for. It stood for a hierarchy that was based on some kind of ordination from a spiritual being, that this human being gets to rule over the earth. And so that's why you have the people below bowing down to the divinely ordained ruler of non-spiritual earthly matters. So right there, that should give you a hint. The whole idea that the earth is not spiritual is part of patriarchal thinking, right? So this idea that somehow the earthly plane, our bodies, our existence here is any less spiritual or any less divine than anything else in the universe is a toxic patriarchal way of thinking. And the way I define patriarchy, it's really, the better term for that is sociopathy. And a sociopath is somebody who is, their masculine is very disconnected from their feminine. So it's like, they're a rocket without any guidance. They're just going, they just don't have any guidance, because our feminine is our guidance and our masculine is our ability to take action. But without that internal guidance, you're just a bull in a china shop. So that's how I define patriarchy, because honestly, patriarchy isn't good for men, healthy men, either. It's not. It's terrible for us. But it's even worse for women, because women externally physically represent the divine feminine, and the patriarchy wants to disempower the divine feminine at all costs. Right? That's how they climb their way to the top and maintain their position, because 99% of the Earth's population are not sociopathic. There's 1% of the Earth's population that is sociopathic, and there is a reason why we talk about, quote, the 1%. Right? So no, it's not true that all wealthy people are sociopaths, or that there are no poor people who are sociopaths, but there is a correlation between the 1% and the fact that 1% of the Earth's population are sociopathic, right? So the true representation for Taurus is the Empress. And that makes sense, because the Empress represents the wealth and abundance of the earth. right? She's sitting on her throne. She's surrounded by wheat and all this, she's got pomegranates and whatnot. She's got stars on her head. So the crown of stars actually plays into the star card, and I'll get into that later. But she derives her authority from the star card. But yeah, she represents the wealth and abundance of the divine feminine on in of the earth, right? And the card that comes before Taurus, Aries, is the Emperor. And of course, that makes sense because the card after Taurus is Gemini, which is the Lover's card. That's where the Emperor and the Empress come together. And it used to be called the Choice because the Emperor has to decide. Our masculine energy has to decide whether or not to partner with our inner feminine energy. So this is every human being, whether you're a male or a female or somewhere in between. All human beings have a masculine side and a feminine side, regardless of which one is dominant in your personality. And again, at its basic, most simplest thing is that your feminine represents your inner values and how you value yourself. So like how you feel about yourself, and then also what you care about in the world. And because of that, that represents your basically your direction in life, like what you care about. And so your masculine energy is your ability to think, reason, take action, and then also discernment, right? Discernment is a big one. Discernment is the main focus of the masculine energy. Because if you have action but no discernment, you're going to get lost quickly. And the big discernment is, well, how do you know what's coming from your inner guidance versus outside of you? That's where discernment comes in. Discernment is literally how to separate your inner truth from the stories that come from both outside of us, where other people are giving us, here's how things ought to be in life, and then the stories that we all create about ourselves and about life. Now, stories aren't bad. It's just, are those stories in alignment with our inner values? And if they're in alignment with our inner values, then you're going to actually be able to invest your time and energy in something that helps you have a good life, helps you move forward on your path. And if you're not creating, if your stories that you've created, that you're pouring all your time and effort into, are not in alignment with your inner feminine, if you're not creating with your inner feminine, then you're in illusion. And when you create in the space of illusion, you create demons for yourself and potentially for everyone else in the world, right? And so we know this because of, this is what always happens in the Vedic scripts. The Vedic scripts, when you read them, all the demons were created by the masculine gods, and they were trying to create without working with Shakti, the divine feminine force. And whenever they do that, they create a demon. The masculine gods always try to destroy the demons by themselves. They can't, because as I believe it was Einstein once said, you cannot solve a problem from the level at which it was created, right? So you can't get out of your own illusion in that coming from that place of the story creator, the creator of the story, right? So all the stories, they always eventually call upon the goddess, and she's like, what took you so long? I've been here waiting. And so the goddess has to come down, whether it's in the form of Kali or whether it's in the form of, oh gosh, who's the goddess, the warrior goddess? Durga. Or any number of other, goddesses, because the goddess is a singular energy that shows up in whatever form we need her too, right? So that's why there's all these different goddesses, right? 'Cause she basically shows up in the form that's needed, given the moment, given the situation. Um, so yeah, you have Taurus is the Empress, just like Aries is the Emperor, Taurus is the Empress, and they both come together in the Lover's card to decide if why it's Gemini, because it's about communication, it's about thinking, it's about discernment, right? Um, well, the Hierophant actually belongs um, to Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is the Centaur, and the Hierophant is the archetype of um, Chiron. So Chiron was a great teacher in Greece, and was accidentally poisoned by one of his students, Hercules. Went on, because he was immortal, could not die, but the wound never healed because it was poison from the Hydra. So it's a terrible, terrible poison. And Chiron, so this is where we get the thing about the wounded healer. Chiron goes on this lifelong journey to discover the cure for himself. Never finds the cure, is never able to cure himself, but due to his lifelong search for this cure, actually creates cures that help many, many other people. Right? This is also why the Hierophant is the number 5 card, and you look at all the number 5 cards in the tarot, and like the 5 of Cups, it's the person is looking at the 3 spilled cups, but the 2 full cups are right behind him. The 5 of Pentacles, the people are wounded and out in the snow, but right behind them there's a glowing sanctuary. And so the 5s represent understanding that what we think is a terrible situation or loss in our life was actually a necessary ingredient in our journey to help us produce all the gold and the wisdom that we're capable of, right? Chiron never healed his wound, but along the way, he discovered so many ways to help heal other people, that it was this tremendous amount of gold that his journey created, right? And so it's to understand that those very painful, difficult aspects of our journey are not a mistake. They were absolutely necessary. And we should not judge ourselves by any of it, by saying, oh, I wish I would have done things differently. I've said that 1,000,000+ times in my life. I wish I would have done things differently. If I had, I would never have had the experiences that have gotten me to this place. And so it is absolutely all of the really painful missteps I've had in my life have been necessary ingredients, necessary and very valuable ingredients in who I am today, and what I can share with people. So that's the Hierophant. That's Sagittarian energy, right? So with Sagittarius, Temperance gets moved and it goes to Aquarius, right? So if you look, you see the 2 wavy lines going between each cup, right? And the angel. And so what Aquarius is the last and final air sign. The air signs are all about alchemy, hermetic alchemy. Hermes, Mercury, right? Mercury is the Roman version of Hermes. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So it's about hermetic alchemy. It's about blending the opposites. So in Gemini, you have the Lover's card, which is the Emperor and the Empress. So you're bringing together you're alchemizing the inner masculine and inner feminine. In Libra, it's this the scales. So you're alchemizing your inner world with your external world and how you relate, and trying to get a balanced relationship between you and the outside world. And then finally in Aquarius, it's about bringing together your limited conscious awareness and trying to merge that with your, I don't want to say higher awareness because I don't like that idea, but it's your expanded awareness. It's your fully divinely expanded awareness, the big picture. So normally we are only seeing things from a very limited perspective, which is our own. And even if we're just thinking about ourselves, we don't understand why a lot of things are the way they are, right? So we have a very limited perspective, and part of our journey in every life is to expand our awareness as much as possible so that we can see the big picture. This is why so many people talk about Aquarius as doing things that are bigger than you, doing things that are good for the community, because it is about the big picture. Now, the closer your awareness gets to the infinite, like complete, I guess I would say, if you had complete awareness, you wouldn't be able to think of yourself as an individual, and you wouldn't even be able to do anything but what the divine path is, right? The divine plan, because you would just understand it. You'd be like, well, duh, right? It's only because we have limited awarenesses that we kind of have free will, what we would call free will, which is to do something other than what the divine plan. It's why they talk about how angels don't have free will. It's not that they have to do God's will. It's just inevitable when you become that aware. You just can't not be on the same page because it just makes sense. So yeah, that's what temperance is. Temperance represents, our earthly awareness and our divine expanded awareness, and trying to alchemize those two, trying to bring our expand our earthly awareness out to become closer to the divine, the expanded divine awareness, right? That's the journey. Now, it's never going to happen, but the more you know, the easier it gets, because you're not stumbling around in the dark. That's when we have epiphanies, or we have these little perspective shifts that suddenly make all these really painfully incomprehensible things that happen in our past suddenly make complete sense. Not only does it make complete sense, but now they're no longer painful, because you're like, oh, I know exactly what that was about and why it happened. And now it completely makes sense to me. Most of the pain of our lives comes from the confusion of just being confused, not knowing what the hell's going on. But generally, like, we as human beings can put ourselves through a tremendous amount of really painful, difficult circumstances if we understand why we're doing it and where we're going with it and what the payoff is. Yeah, we can really put ourselves through the ringers, right? I mean, you look at all the Olympic athletes, tremendous amount of effort and pain to get where they got. Look at all the successful entrepreneurs, tremendous amount of pain and effort to get where they got. Look at all the people who have advanced PhDs, multiple PhDs, the tremendous amount and rigorous amount of effort and sleepless nights and all that kind of stuff that they put themselves through because they understood why they were doing it, right? But when when we don't understand what's going on, we're just like, WTF, like, well, and that's when we really start to feel feel the discomfort, right? But yeah, this is so the Temperance card, Aquarius. It's about like expanding our awareness to understand the bigger picture and get that aha moments where things really start to make more sense. And when with that understanding comes trust, and with that trust comes um, an, basically an easier life. You start to relax and enjoy because you trust. Right? So Temperance was in Aquarius. So that kicks out the Star card. Now the Star card, I'm going to show you a different Star card for most of this, and I'll show you the original one because of YouTube's misogynistic policies on cartoon nudity. So ultimately, I call it misogynistic because what they're really going after is female nudity, because male nudity has never really been an issue in our culture. But the female body is one of the, if not the most highly controlled substances on the face of this planet. Think about it. So, the Star card, why does it belong to Venus? And this ties things up nicely, right? So we took the Empress from Venus down to Taurus, and the Star card goes to Venus. And this is why I know what I'm saying is correct, because it all fits perfectly. So the modern tarot descriptions we have now assign the Star card to Aquarius. And in the last 3 videos, I discussed all of that. And this is due to the patriarchal projections of the Hierophant being, ruling over Earth. The Star card in the major arcana, it's properly assigned to the planet Venus because Venus has been known for thousands of years, literally thousands of years, since our Proto-Indo-European languages have been around. Thousands of years. As what we still call it today, both the morning star and the evening star. In fact, Venus is the third brightest object in the nighttime sky. It's actually the third brightest object in the sky. The sun is the first brightest, the moon is the second brightest, and Venus is the third brightest, right? So it's very prominent. It's the morning star because it's the first object you can see in the sky in the morning. It beats the sun, right? You can see Venus before you can see the sun. And it's the first object you can see in the evening after the sun has gone down. You can see it's the first star. The moon might already be up, right? But that's why we call it both the morning star and the evening star. Also, the ancient Egyptian, Venus represents the ancient Egyptian goddess of the night. Nut was pictured as a star-covered nude woman arching over the earth and the sea. So this is where we come to, and I don't care if they flag me for this, we see the Star card as a nude woman bending over the waters of the sea, pouring her waters into the sea and the land, right? Because Venus represents the divine feminine, and water and earth are the 2 feminine signs. So she's pouring her wisdom, her waters, onto both the seas and the land of earth. And she has all the stars covering her, around her. So this is kind of a representation of that as well. She's wearing a dress covered in stars. And you see she has a very Egyptian look. And so, she is considered one of the oldest deities among the Egyptian pantheon. She is the goddess of the sky, stars, cosmos, mothers, astronomy, and the universe in the ancient, and like the really ancient, like the pre-dynastic ancient Egyptian religion. Nut was known as the mistress of all, or she who bore the gods. The Greeks called her Nyx, and the Romans Nox. Her German name is Nacht, and in English we say night. Queen of Heaven was a title given to a number of ancient sky goddesses worshipped throughout the ancient Mediterranean and the Near East. Goddesses known to have been referred to by this title include Nut, Inanna, Anat, Isis, Astarte, and possibly Asherah by the prophet Jeremiah. In Greco-Roman times, Hera and Juno bore this title, and some Christian sects have given this title to the Virgin Mary. Also, it's interesting to note that in Christianity, in the Christian writings, the modern Christian writings, they cast Lucifer as the evil one. Lucifer is Latin for, which literally means the morning star. Again, we see the patriarchal vilification of the divine feminine by demonizing the symbol of Venus. So in wrap up, this wraps up my discussion of the distortion of the tarot via the lens of patriarchal society. I know a lot of people who have studied tarot will reject this information, and that's fine. It's always hard to change the way you think about something that you've already spent a lot of time and energy learning and have become comfortable with in that way of thinking, right? And that's okay. That's okay. No one needs to change how they think about anything. I simply offer this information for anyone who is open to hearing it. And I would love to hear any of your thoughts or questions about any of this in the comment section below. Again, thanks for tuning in. Take care and have a lovely day.